G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be covering all this drama with Cloud9. This is honestly one of the craziest topics I've covered in such a long time. If you somehow missed it, Cloud9, one of the biggest orgs in NA East, has just dropped Vivid and Chap with next to no reason, next to no warning, after both these players turned down other top tier orgs to join Cloud9, to the point where Vivid is now retiring from competitive Fortnite. He is giving up on competitive Fortnite because he's now being dropped by Cloud9. This is ridiculous. And you guys know me, I try to stay as unbiased as possible when I do these videos. I don't like to give my opinion too much, but it's gonna be tough here. We have so many pros coming out and telling their story of Cloud9 just treating them terribly, and you have other big notable figures like T-Hump, who actually at the start of this, when Chap and Vivid first joined Cloud9, predicted that this would happen. This is not unusual for this org, and up until now, people have talked about it, but this has really brought it to the front. Both Chap and Vivid made tweets that have gotten over 10,000 likes, so much attention. Everyone's coming out with these terrible stories at Cloud9, and it's really not looking good for them. So I'm going to break down everything that happened, everything that we know, and there's going to be some gaps because Cloud9 just hasn't addressed this at all. They haven't made their own post about this at the time of making this video. I really hope they at least make a tweet or something saying why they dropped two of the biggest figures in Fortnite, and by far their two biggest Fortnite players. In case you are out of the loop and you don't know who Cloud9 is, or C9, they are one of the biggest orgs in NA East. They have spread across multiple titles. Their League of Legends team is one of the best in NA East. This isn't a small org. Like, I know some people in Fortnite hadn't really heard of Cloud9 too much until they signed Chap and Vivid, because in Fortnite they weren't too big. Back in the day, they had some big signings. They pulled out and they came back. But this isn't like, you know, a small org. Like, we see this kind of stuff happening in small orgs that are up and coming, that don't quite treat their players right and do weird deals. No, this is a massive, massive org, considered one of the tier 1 and best orgs in NA East. So just in case you didn't know that, I thought I'd clarify before we go into exactly what actually happened. Let's start off with how all this started, like what actually happened. So I was just streaming, doing my thing like everyone else in the community, and all of a sudden Chap tweets out free agent ... LOL, and everyone starts freaking out. Like, what do you mean? You just joined to Cloud9 a few months ago. No explanation, no reason, just Chap saying he's a free agent. Everyone started talking about this. The whole community started freaking out. Everyone was trying to figure out what was happening, and Chap really didn't say much. He made a few tweets, a few responses. The only reason that he was given for being dropped was visibility. And don't look at me for some kind of, you know, grand explanation as what that means to try and make that make sense to you. It makes no sense to me either. Visibility of what? Lack of visibility? I don't genuinely have any clue what that means. We didn't really get any more information on this situation until we had Vivid make his tweet. Vivid had a massive tweet, and I'm going to break it down because it's pretty huge. This is Vivid announcing his retirement and giving us some more insight and details onto exactly what happened with Cloud9. Now, Vivid's tweet was quite long, so I'm going to put the link in the description down below. It was a tweet longer. It was very long, but I'll cover the main parts that you need to know. So he started off by saying, hey guys, this is going to be a tough one to type, so bear with any errors. He said, but as of today, I'm released from Cloud9. To explain the situation, I got a message yesterday inquiring about having a meeting today. Then today, got into the meeting with the Fortnite manager, Robin, over at C9, who basically immediately informed me that myself and Chap would be getting released today. They got less than a day's notice that they were being released from their contracts. There was no real explanation. To be honest, I doubt Robin knew why, as the only explanation he got for the decision was visibility. And again, I still don't get what that means. He said, not entirely sure what that means, but figure I'd let you know as much as I do. As far as I know, Avery, Nosh, and Frist are still on the C9 roster and have no idea what C9's plans for the future of Fortnite are. So let's just break that down. To start off with, Vivid and Chap both get released with less than 24 hours notice. He goes on to say, I'm not mad or upset at C9. I understand that it's just business, but I just think it's crazy how we can commit to an org for 2 to 3 years and have no say what or where we go, but then they can decide to do whatever they want with us whenever they want. He said, I'm not going to be an advocate for it, but I really hope there are some changes for the sake of the players. I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. So Vivid signed on for, I don't know what the contract was. They can't release their contracts again. I'm going to touch on that later. But as far as this goes, it looks like they signed on for 2 to 3 years exclusively. They can't go join other orgs. They can't do other things in that 2 to 3 years. But now C9, a few months later, can turn around and say, hey, with a day's notice, we're canceling your contract. You're not going to get paid anymore. Good luck. after they've probably already turned down major orgs. I know for a fact major orgs would have reached out to these guys, and then now they're just kicked to the curb a few months later and they have no say in it. He then goes on to talk about how much this has made him appreciate and realize how good he had it at Team Liquid, because if you somehow missed it, Chap and Vivid were obviously both signed to the old school Liquid roster, one of the best and probably one of the most famous Fortnite rosters to ever exist, with 72 Hours and Poach. He goes on to talk about how great they were, and by comparison, how well he was treated there to how terribly he's been treated now. Then he goes on to drop the massive bombshell that says, "So I guess you can say I retire." He said, "That being said, I would like to take the time to let all my fans know and all of the Fortnite community that I don't have the energy to search for another organization at this time, and I don't want to continue professional play without having a guaranteed form of income." So because of this, Vivid has now retired. And like he said, he doesn't have the energy to go back through the recruitment process, because this would have taken a while. He would have had multiple orgs reach out to him. He would have had to go through negotiations, contract signings, all of this. And now months later, he just gets dropped. And he said, what's next? Again, this is super exciting for Vivid. I don't want to talk about it too much in the video, as exciting as it is, because there's so much to cover. It looks like Vivid wants to move into more of like an analyst commentating role like I have, which I think would be amazing. I've personally reached out to Vivid and said, hey man, like we need to make this happen. You would be a phenomenal analyst. Having someone who's played at the very, very top level, breaking down plays and letting them know like why things happen would be amazing. So it looks like Vivid's not too upset the fact that this happened, because it looks like maybe he already had kind of half a step out the door and he wanted to move on anyway. But that doesn't change the fact of just how terribly they've been treated. And that's what I want to move on to now. These aren't standalone issues. These aren't just like, oh man, C9 dropped the ball with Vivid and Chap. This has now led to a flood of messages and people coming out and saying how terrible their position was with C9 and how they've been treated. I'm not talking nobodies, like other top tier pros in the community. And I want to go through some of those now. On September 19th, 2020, T-Hump responded to Avery's official announcements with him saying, everyone on Cloud9 Fortnite gets cut or becomes irrelevant after 3 months. Good luck. That was on September, October, November. He missed it by 1 month, but he was completely correct here. And again, T-Hump, that's not all he had to say. He did go in pretty ham on Cloud9 as well. He said things similar to what I have as well. He said this is an absolute trash way to go about business at Cloud9. When someone came out and said, Jacob Reiser, I hope I'm saying that properly, it's Hysteria, one of the most famous people on Cloud9, originally said, I had the same thing happen. Multiple year deal with C9 ended after 3 months with no cause or reason. At some point, their constant screwing over of players will catch up to them. It's so insanely unfair to players to be offered 3 years of stability and have it taken for no reason. And again, Hysteria was on the original Cloud9 roster way back in OG, like skirmish Fortnite days. So this isn't something that they're unknown for doing. Jailmock even came out and said, I met with C9 once and the recruiter left mid-meeting for an emergency and never hit me up again. And the reason why I'm stressing this point so much is because, like Hysteria said, this happened to Hysteria ages ago. People like T-Hump were wary of C9, but then people like Chap and Vivid, and again, I don't hold this against them, trusted them, signed with them, and the same things happened again. I don't want to say like, hey, we need to like boycott this org. Like, I'm not for cancel culture and stuff. I'm just for players understanding the position they're in and making sure they know who they maybe shouldn't be trusting. But even then, this shouldn't come down to trust. Players should have it in their contract where they're guaranteed to either have the full extent of that contract adhered to, or if they get cut early, they get some kind of payment. You can't just be cut out of a multi-year plan for no compensation with 1 day's notice. That is crazy. It's same with your job. Most places around the world, your job can't just fire you for no good reason on 1 day's notice and you now get no money. And like I said, Chap and Vivid, I guarantee, got other top tier org offers that they've turned down. The probably won't be willing to pick them back up now. Maybe they will. If you guys remember with Nick Mercs, all the drama he had with 100 Thieves, he parted ways with them and very quickly got picked up by FaZe. So it is possible these orgs like to jump on these opportunities to make an example of, hey, those people didn't treat you well, let's treat you well. Join us. I would love to see that. Obviously, that's too far gone for Vivid now. I don't think Vivid wants to join an org. Maybe that's still a potential for Chap, but we now still have players that are signed to Cloud9's Fortnite roster, and we don't even know what's going on with them right now. We still have, according to Vivid, Avery, Nosh, and Frisk signed to C9. Now, they were actually streaming when this all went down. Their chat was freaking out. They didn't really have any extra information. They were probably scared to say anything as well, because you don't really want to speak out against an org that's just dropping players without any heads up, and you don't really want to have any contract issues. I'm good friends with Vivid. I'm good friends with Chap. I reached out to both of them to ask their opinions on this. We had a little bit of a chat, but I'm not going to show the DMs. I'm not going to share what they said, because at the same time, they still did have a contract with C9. I don't want them to get in any trouble. They didn't really give me any crazy insight. They've already shared almost all of it, but I think all these guys are just scared because, again, players just don't have as much power as the orgs in these situations. We don't know how long players sign for. We don't know how much they sign for. We don't know the terms of their contract. We just don't have any information about them when these things happen. I compare this to other sports. When you have Neymar getting signed to a soccer team or a football team, sorry, I probably just triggered a bunch of my EU fans. We know exactly for how long, how much, and what is the bonus if someone else wants to sign him. All the information's out there in public, and it really helps the players. It lets people know what they're worth and what they should ask for. The current system only benefits the orgs. It doesn't benefit the players at all, and that's what we're seeing here. This isn't a once-off instance of Fortnite players being treated terribly by orgs. It happens all the time. Alright guys, that does it for another video. You know, I try to keep my opinions out of these videos. I try not to get too emotional about it. Maybe because this has just happened to two close friends of mine, I had to go in a little bit, but again, you just can't let orgs get away with treating people like this. I hope I'm missing something. I hope C9 maybe fixes something, makes a statement addressing this whole situation, but I'm not entirely hopeful. If today's video was enjoyable, if you liked it, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comment section down below if you agree that this was just handled terribly. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.